Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. I am very happy that you're here. Had many places you could have been tonight, but you chose to come here and watch this show, and for that, I'm forever gratefully appreciative. Please ring the little bell and subscribe if you haven't already done that, if you're new here. Also, go over to douglasducote.com and sign up. Folks, America, as we speak, is under attack. Literally. Everything that our forefathers built, stood for, all those that served in the military, died on the battlefields all across the globe, their legacy, their memory is under attack. Our brave men and women in law enforcement are doing everything in their power today to try and battle what's happening out there. What I need you to pay particular attention to is where all the chaos is taking place. Whether it's protests turning violent, the Antifa movement, riots in the streets, black on black crime. Everywhere you see this violent element of society, they all have, those areas have one thing in common. And that is those areas are controlled by Democrats. You're going to find that it's a Democrat mayor. And if you don't know this, in I think all cities in America, unless I'm mistaken, the mayor appoints who the police chief will be and can fire the police chief at will. The police chief answers to the mayor, and what the mayor says goes. If the mayor says to law enforcement, you're going to stand down, well, the police chief has one of two choices: disobey it and be fired, or stand down. And sadly, we see that happening all across this nation. Right now, America is hurting, drastically hurting. We have law enforcement officers that are being ambushed, that are being shot and killed. Traffic stops now. Immediately, people jump out with guns and start shooting at the police. As someone who served in both law enforcement and the military, as someone who has been all over this globe, many different horrible scenarios and real combat situations, I assure you that your odds of not being injured or killed are safer in places like Iraq and Afghanistan than they are in the streets of Chicago or New Orleans, Oakland, California, Detroit, Seattle, Washington. Right now, we have something that has taken place in Portland, Oregon, that's getting almost zero news coverage. CNN and MSNBC sure as hell aren't covering it. Fox News will have a little something about it, but not the detail that it needs. And that is the ongoing unrest in Portland that's reached a degree of, well, let's just say that it's gotten to a point that it looks like Portland, downtown Portland, just like downtown Seattle just went through, is a war zone, with law enforcement having their hands tied behind their back, not being allowed to use tear gas, not being allowed to use rubber bullets, basically not allowed to be violent, not allowed to put out the same effort you're getting back in return in trying to take someone into custody. And because there is a camera, a cell phone at every corner all over the place, somebody's going to film everything that law enforcement does. Right now, currently, the Baton Rouge, Louisiana police chief, thankfully, released the vehicle cameras for law enforcement and the officer body cameras, Baton Rouge police officers that were involved in a high-speed chase that went on through many neighborhoods in Baton Rouge at 100 miles per hour. And when they finally got these guys to stop, it was in an African-American community. And of course, they were both black. Even though most of the police officers with the Baton Rouge Police Department that you can see in the footage are black, it didn't matter. In the process of taking one of those guys into custody, someone took a cell phone video, and it appears from just a small section of that angle that the knee of the officer goes onto the neck of the person being taken into custody. And when this happened yesterday, I thought, oh my God, here we go again. Black Lives Matter is getting all ready to go out and burn down Baton Rouge tonight. So the police chief released the videos to show that, no, the knee went to his back, below the neck, in an area where they're trained to keep the person on the ground so they don't resist. Whether or not that release of those videos is going to be enough to stop what could possibly go down in Baton Rouge tonight, I don't know. But the left and the Democrats and the Black Lives Matter movement and Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Antifa and the new Black Panther Party are all up in arms that another racist white cop in their mind put a knee to an innocent, poor, unarmed black youth. And that's how the narrative was spun, sadly, even by the local stations in Baton Rouge, WAFB and WBRZ, who I have great respect for. I've been on both those networks several times and done many different stories about things, basically mostly veteran related, throughout the past 10 years. We can't continue to jump the gun like this by assuming that just because one bad police officer did something that took a person's life, such as in the George Floyd situation, that all cops are bad. And that's how it's being painted. The murder rate in America right now, if you don't know this, is skyrocketing. The crimes across America are just off the charts. And a lot of people are trying to blame it on the COVID-19 lockdown. No. No, it's not. It's because most police officers, if they have enough time to retire, are going, fuck this, I'm out of here before I get killed. Or don't get to retire because some Democrat judge and a Democrat panel of 12 are going to railroad my ass. And a lot of young cops are going, no, I'm out of here. and they're quitting, or they're going to work somewhere else for the sheriff's department out in a country area. They're calling in sick, especially in your major metropolitan cities like Detroit and Chicago. This is the worst of times to be in law enforcement. And for those brave men and women that continue to put that badge on and go out on every shift, we have to continue to support them and pray that they get through it and they get to go home to their families. Since George Floyd was murdered, there's been over 200 law enforcement officers physically injured and put out of service on medical leave. And I believe it's up to 8 now that have been killed. Because in these areas, once again, that are run by Democrats, they're allowing this thug mentality, this complete and utter no merit Black Lives Matter movement that is completely and totally hijacked by the far left. Even if you want to go with, yes, through history, Black people have been suppressed. Hell, they were slaves. If you just wanted to look at that and the fact that most of the inner cities of America, which are predominantly Black, are having a very difficult time rising above what they have there. If you were to just go with that, it does not in any way, shape, or form represent what's happening to Black America today. The looting, the rioting, the murders, the attacking, and you can see it, it's all over YouTube. Just hundreds of videos of Black people just walking up to a white person in the street, whether it's a little old lady or a kid, and knocking them out or jumping on them and beating them. It's completely uncalled for. And what does that do to the person that maybe is on the fence on the Black Lives movement? Or those that aren't, that really didn't pay much attention to it. When you see that type of violence taking place, and then you add a bunch of white punks into it, Antifa, and the average American sits back and watches this on their television set and says, fuck these people. The hell with Black Lives Matter. Look what they're doing. It's all a false narrative. Going back to the whole Ferguson, Missouri, Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot bullshit that went all the way up to the Black Caucus and Congress and the President of the United States, Barack Obama. It was all a lie. But they don't care. Michael Brown's a fucking hero. He's a martyr. And the poor cop lost everything. He's done for defending his life. So what's happening in Portland right now the news isn't telling you about? Pay attention to this. Unrest continues for the 6th straight week with no end in sight. you were to go down to Portland, Oregon tonight, it's a Tuesday night, you would go, it's a freaking war zone. Just like in Chicago, or Atlanta, or Memphis, or New Orleans, or Baton Rouge. The death of George Floyd triggered a wave of protests and violent mayhem across the country as demonstrators demanded justice against racial injustice and police brutality. In Portland, Oregon's largest city, those demonstrations have raged for 6 weeks straight, and local businesses have reported $23 million in losses due to looting and rioting that have gripped the downtown areas since the end of May. Demonstrators have been seen lighting mattresses on fire, setting off fireworks in the street. Just this week, a federal officer who was sent to protect a closed courthouse was struck in the head and shoulder with a hammer as protesters attempted to break down the courthouse door. And of course, they wanted to set it on fire like they've done police stations in Seattle. The courthouse suffered an estimate $50,000 in damage. Thankfully, Jacob Michael Gaines, age 23 of Texas, was arrested for the assault on the officer. And the unrest, federal officers were called into the city to protect federal properties, including the Mark Hatfield Federal Courthouse, Pioneer Courthouse, the Edith Green Wendell White Federal Building, and Terry Schruckett Plaza. Earlier this month, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security deployed more than half a dozen law enforcement agencies and departments, which officers from the U.S. Marshals, the Federal Protection Service, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Riding Protection Services, trying to get the city under control. However, the violence has no end in sight, and it remains unclear who is responsible for helping organize and supply the protesters with what they need to wreak havoc in the street, such as bricks and bats that are just being delivered and show up on street corners. And then the local officials, the Democrats, have criticized federal law enforcement and even President Trump for the havoc. Meanwhile, one group of anti-capitalist, anti-fascist teens who call themselves the Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front has used social media to organize throughout the city. The Seattle Times reported the group used social media to promote rallies, provide rioters with tactical advice, and offer commentary to the gatherings of these groups that have led to clashes with police. Its goal is to upend the U.S. political system. They're domestic terrorists. Agents from different components of the Department of Homeland Security are deployed to protect the federal courthouses in Portland, Oregon, as we speak. The president ordered them in there because Democrat mayors basically told their cops, you can't do anything. No, can't hurt these people. Can't get rough with them. You can't. Don't use any foul language. They're too sensitive. On an unverified Twitter page attributed to the group, which has amassed more than 21,000 followers, shared a post on Monday, that was yesterday, said that the feds and Portland police are very quickly finding out that if they build a fortress and use sage tactics, the people will put their fucking fortress under siege. Dear Twitter, would you like to please remove the domestic terrorist Twitter page? Hell, you remove mine for making a joke about AOC. Early Tuesday morning today, The Portland Police Department, which is banned by a temporary federal court order because of a Democrat federal judge, banned from using tear gas unless they declare that it is a riot taking place. They took to Twitter to declare the situation in the streets had once again devolved into a riot scenario outside the city's Union Police headquarters. The city's police bureau has declared a riot multiple times before federal officers showed up to assist. The department warned those who refused to disperse would be subject to arrest, tear gas, or impact weapons. It shared images of the objects thrown at officers, including bricks, paint, ball bearings, glass bottles. Last week, Deputy Police Chief Chris Davis said an agitator corps of violent protesters were responsible for the vandalism and chaos in the city, which has been ready to reopen for weeks after the coronavirus pandemic lockdowns. Davis pledged support for the Black Lives Matter movement and its nonviolent protest and condemned the separate group of dangerous and sophisticated vandals causing the mayhem. That is the Deputy Police Chief, Chris Davis of Portland, Oregon, who answers to the Democrat mayor, who believes that Michael Brown was gunned down like a dog in the streets, as, Maxine Waters, Democrat congresswoman, said took place. There's a very big difference between protests and the kind of mayhem that we're seeing every night, he said. You're going to hear me make a lot of effort not to refer to what we're talking about here as protests, because protests and this are two different things. No shit. Let me back up a second. How about this, Chief Davis? Here's an idea. When you apply for a permit to protest, it can only be during daylight hours. Because if you let them protest at night, here comes that bad element that you're talking about. And now we don't know who the hell's who. And I promise you, half of that Black Lives Matter group that's peacefully protesting sticks around and joins the other group. He said last week that more than 100 people, both city employees and the public, have sustained injuries throughout these demonstrations. Well, gee, during demonstrations, was there violence, Chief? Among those injured was Donovan LaBelle, age 26, who collapsed to the ground unconscious and bleeding profusely from the head after he was hit by a less lethal round outside of the federal courthouse. Video recorded by a bystander shows LaBelle standing with both arms in the air, holding a large speaker across the street from the courthouse when he was hit. His mother told the Oregon Public Broadcasting that her son underwent surgery on Sunday after suffering facial and skull fractures. I want to make it very clear so that there's no confusion, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler said. The serious injuries sustained by Donovan LaBelle at the hands of federal officers is unacceptable. Then why don't you get your pansy ass out there and fucking do something about it, bitch? You're part of the biggest problem that's happening right now in Portland, Oregon. U.S. Marshal Service has launched an investigation into the incident. Wheeler, a Democrat, accused President Trump on Monday of escalating the situation in the city with his heavy-handed tactics, which led to serious injury and inflamed an already tense situation. So, it's okay to allow these fuckers to run your street, destroy your buildings, loot the shit out of everything, attack police officers and innocent people, and burn down the damn city. That's okay with you? The president finally says, fuck you, and sends in the feds, and now, your damn butt plug is shoved up your ass too much, you fucking no good son of a bitch. Why in the hell the people of Portland have you still in power? I don't understand. You're a disgrace to not only Portland, Oregon, but the human race for allowing this to happen in the city. In a press conference, Wheeler said he wants the federal agents to de-escalate the situation, not add to the already highly volatile situation. He said he had no problem with federal officers protecting the facilities, but you can't hurt these poor innocent kids. They're trying to exercise their Second Amendment rights by burning the fuck down Portland. What I have a problem with is them leaving the facilities and going out into the streets of this community and then escalating an already tense situation as they did the other night. He said, I would consider telling them to leave, but I don't have the authority over the federal government. If you're new here, I'm not politically correct because I believe political correctness is what's destroying our country. Because we're giving in to these pussies like this son of a bitch. Men and women of law enforcement are dying all over America right now because of fucking Democrats. Portland Police Chief Chuck Lovell also addressed a recent uptick in shootings and homicides across the city, without claiming the violence was associated with the unrest in the city brought by riots. Portland witnessed, are you ready for this? A 380% increase in shootings over the past year. I will repeat that. Portland has a 300 and not 100% increase, not a 380% increase in shootings over the past year. 5 homicides occurred within a 24-hour period this past weekend. Each of these numbers represents a human being. We must not lose sight of that. 5 victims of homicides within 24 hours is staggering. No shit. Chief Lovell, either do your job and let the men and women of the Portland Police Department do theirs, or fucking resign. Do not. It is an unlawful order for the mayor to not let you protect and serve the citizens of Portland. You don't get that? That's what your damn job is. That's what you took an oath to do. Addressing rumors on social media, Portland police said that one of those homicide victims, 28-year Dominique Marshall Dunn, who was gunned down on a city street corner Thursday, did not appear to be targeted because he was black. Now, I'm going to repeat that because this is what I've been bitching about. If you go back and look at some of my videos about black on black crime, here it is, folks. Addressing rumors on social media, Portland police, this is the chief, One of those homicide victims, 28-year Dominique Marshall Dunn, who was gunned down on the city street corner Thursday, did not appear to be targeted because he was black. The agency said the detectives interviewed multiple witnesses to this crime, and there is no information at this time to support race was a factor that played a role in this case. Fuck you. It's called black on black crime. No, the black guy didn't kill him because he's a black guy. He killed him because they're out of fucking control all over America. They're out of control because Democrats won't reel their ass in. And they're allowing them to destroy America. Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, shithole cities. They used to be real nice. I've been to them many times. Beautiful. I've never set foot back there again. Speaking of shithole places, Chicago. Let's talk about black on black crime. In the past 14 days, this is just July, 254 people were shot in 14 days. 207 of them were wounded seriously, and 47 were killed. Total homicides in the past 14 days is 55. Week in progress right now, 8 shot and killed, 40 shot and wounded, total of 48. Let's talk about since January 2020, January 1st, 1,978 shootings. Seriously wounded that survived, 207. Total homicides, 55. I'm sorry. I just screwed that all up. I'm looking at the wrong damn thing. Year to date, total homicides, 395 since January 1. 395 black lives that don't matter to Black Lives Matter because they're not down there in Chicago protesting to get the other black people to stop killing black people. Does that make any sense? Imagine if law enforcement since January has killed 395 black people. Then, I'd be standing with Black Lives Matter. But that's not the case. In fact, more white people are shot and killed by cops than black people. They say, oh, Doug, well, the numbers are completely looking. Black people are way less, numbers than white people. White people, there's more white people. You can't do it that way. Okay, you're right. Okay, fine. Then tell me why then that the lower amount of people happen to be committing the most crimes. There's a problem. Fix it. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Black Lives Matter. Instead of protesting cops that aren't your problem, 395 black youth are dead since January 1st in Chicago. And you guys don't give two shits. Here's the actual time frame. A person is shot in Chicago every 2 hours and 22 minutes. A person is murdered in Chicago every 11 hours and 55 minutes. 92% of all of those, I'm sorry, let me give you the exact damn percentage. Let me back up a second. I want to make sure I get this as right as I can get it. When we're talking about numbers of those that are here we go. Here we go. Black, 77%. Hispanic, 16.1%. White, 4.5%. So, unknown, 2.4. I don't know what unknown means. Another fucking planet? Who knows? You know, you look at these statistics in places like Chicago or New Orleans. Hell, go to, here's what you do. Go to New Orleans Police Department's website. They have a crime map that shows you all the crimes that took place in the city in the past 24 hours. And they're all color-coded with little objects. You know, red means murder. Yellow might mean car thief. You know, blue might mean robbery. All the crimes you can think of all got their little color and their little object for what they are. And then there's the map. And it's just dotted all over. Any tourist planning to go to New Orleans, and this is a place I grew up in. I love that city. Any tourist planning to go to New Orleans that looked at that website, the New Orleans Police Department website, before booking their travels, would not go. No way in hell would they risk their families' lives. But people don't do that. Who would have knew? The New Orleans is damn near as bad as Chicago. And just a few years ago, it was. No different than Baton Rouge. Every night. Hell, even in broad daylight, they're gunning each other down in the damn streets. Black on black crime. It's an epidemic in America. And what is Black Lives Matter and CNN and MSNBC, the Democrats and the liberals pushing? Police officers. Police officers are killing unarmed, innocent black youth. It's one of the saddest things in my lifetime that's happened to this country. That we allowed a group that completely has no merit, a group that is on an agenda hell-bent on destroying our society and our laws. We've allowed them to dictate what we're going to do moving forward. We've allowed them, the multi-million-dollar NFL players, to take a knee during the national anthem because cops are gunning down innocent black people in the streets. And the youth watching those heroes of theirs, the NFL players, believe that shit. And it starts a culture of nobody wants to be a cop. Nobody wants to protect and serve a community that doesn't give a shit about them. And now we're defunding them? We're defunding them? We're taking millions of dollars away from their budgets and defunding them. Hell, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said we're not doing enough. Don't just take a few million away. Take it all away, she says. Defunding means defunding. Then who's going to protect your fucking dumbass, AOC? Who? Matter of fact, if you defunded, if you actually could do that, I don't think you would live 24 hours. You can't see that? You can't see that you're such a cancer to this country, along with like Alihan Omar and Rashid Tlaib? You're such a cancer to this country that people will take you out in a second if there's no cops. And you want to let everybody out of prison. You don't want jails anymore. You want to completely destroy our justice system. You said so. Along with your squad. Think about that, dumbass. If we did that, who's going to protect you girls? Who? Where are you going to turn? And while I'm at it, let's real quick breaking news. Tommy Tuberville defeats former AG Jeff Sessions in the Alabama GOP Senate runoff election. Thank you, dear Lord. Sessions, pack your ass up and go fucking retire. Anyhow, while we're on the subject of Black Lives Matter, and I've shown you the proof, I've talked about it, I've screamed and hollered about it for several years now in my videos about how it's all a false narrative and they really don't give a shit about Black lives. It's just destroying those that are there to protect and serve the community. Planned Parenthood. It was originally founded for the purpose of eliminating the Black race by giving free abortions to Black women. That was their goal. And still today, they're doing one hell of a job killing Black babies, as well as white babies and Hispanic babies. Do those lives matter to Black lives matter? To Al Sharpton, to Jesse Jackson? Do these Black babies' lives matter? No, they don't. They don't. You guys don't give a shit. You want to focus on 2 or 3 cases that might happen a year out of hundreds of thousands of law enforcement involvements where a cop made a dumbass decision and somebody died. And make the world believe that it's an epidemic in America. That's what you're trying to do. And all that does is endanger the lives of our men and women that put on that uniform every single day and night to go out and protect us. I've been saying that. I've been screaming that. And I don't know who I'm more disappointed in, to be honest with you, between the Democrat Party or the Republican Party, because I don't see not a single Republican member of Congress standing up and speaking the truth about Black Lives Matter movement. Not one of them. Why? Because it's not politically correct. Your silence is endangering the lives of our men and women in law enforcement. Period. Those that are ambushed and shot and killed, well, their blood is on your hands too. Because you didn't say anything. You're silent. Even when you have the opportunity, Republicans, when you had the House and Senate and 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, what did you do about it? What did you do about it? Not a damn thing. And by not doing anything about it, you made it worse. You made the situation worse. And that is a disgrace. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you work for us. We write your paycheck. And Republicans need to be aware of what I'm saying right now. Tell your member of Congress, tell your senators to stand up to Black Lives Matter. They will stand up to Antifa. Oh, why? Because they're primarily white. And they think they can get away with it because no white people are going to go try and track them down with pitchforks and flamethrowers. But Black Lives Matter will. It is an absolute war zone out there, friends. And let me try and make this as clear as I possibly can to Democrats and liberals. Be careful what you wish for. If Donald Trump is defeated in November, well, the Democrats are going to run all those policies that they're putting in their back pocket right now into full speed. And once they have the Senate and House, they're going to defund ICE, completely shut it down, Border Patrol, Customs, allow anybody and everybody in. They want to get rid of the jails. They want to get rid of law enforcement. They want to get rid of our justice system because it suppresses the black man. Be careful what you wish for, because I'll be the first person to tell you that when there's no more cops on the street and there's no more justice system and there's no more jails, it's going to be like the wild, wild west all over again. And I promise you, it's not going to turn out good for Democrats and liberals. What's protecting you right now is 99.9% of American patriots and military veterans is law and order, is our faith in God. We continue to do the right thing and not the wrong thing, as you people are hell-bent on doing. So we sit back and we watch the destruction of our country. And if you ever get your goal, I will lead the damn charge. Because when there's no more cops and there's no more justice system and there's no more jails and prisons, America becomes a bigger shithole than some of the war zones I've been to in foreign countries. And I'll be damned if real American patriots are going to sit back and do nothing. I can only pray that in my lifetime, that doesn't become a reality. But you better be ready for it. Whichever side of the fence you're on. Because it's a very, very bad scenario that could come true. You got a lot of places you could be tonight. You chose to be here, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Please share my videos, subscribe, ring the bell, go over to DouglasDucote.com, sign up for our free newsletter. Hell, you can even get this shirt, The Douglas Ducote Show, and many other clothing apparel that we have there. Please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our brave men and women in law enforcement, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, our president, and our country. Hope you all have a wonderful and blessed evening. God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. I'll see you next Thursday, my friends. Have a blessed evening.